Governor Ducey, welcome.
It's good to be here, Glenn. It's different circumstances, but I look forward to this visit every year.
Well, normally we would be talking about just sort of business as usual. And given we're in a pandemic, I would generally start with that. But given the events at our nation's capital, the citadel of democracy on Wednesday, I wanted to get first your take on the riots.
Well, I just wanted to denounce in the strongest possible terms what happened at our nation's capital. There's no place for violence and vandalism and rioting in the People's House. That is the cradle of liberty and a symbol for all the world of the nation's longest lasting republic, which is what we are. So I realize people want to have their voices heard, and there's many peaceful ways to do it. And ultimately, in the United States, you have your voice heard with your vote. What happened at the Capitol was unacceptable.
Well, Governor, on the pandemic, you and your team have been working 24/7. You have an exceptional team, and I don't think you've slept probably since February. And I also just want to point out, before we get into your general take on where things stand, the exceptional work of Dr. Kara Christ. She has been battle tested. She has been working day and night. I know the COVID project has said, what we're reporting out is the best in the country. From the chamber's standpoint, you've been the best governor in the country in terms of balancing the health of our citizens and keeping as much of our economy open as possible, including golf. And this is a pretty darn good time to golf when we're in Arizona Chamber of Commerce weather. Governor, can you maybe talk a little bit about your general approach to the pandemic?
Well, first, I want to say I'm glad that you touched on Dr. Kara Christ. I am very fortunate to have her as the leader and chief medical officer in the state of Arizona. She's not only a medical doctor and an infectious disease epidemiologist who's dealt with other viral outbreaks before. She's an incredible leader, and she has an unbelievable team at the Department of Health Services. So whether she's guiding and advising myself or working with Washington, D.C., Health and Human Services, Dr. Fauci, or Dr. Birx, she's held in the highest regard, and this is something no one expected, no one saw coming. 50% of the nation's public health officers have quit through this. They've simply gone to do something else somewhere else. Kara Christ has worked harder, been more effective, and has, like I said, such a good group of people. I think I've likely spent more time over at the Department of Health Services than any predecessor governor just because of that. So I've gotten to really interact with the talent on her team, and I do think that it is up to the leader to attract those highly qualified and credentialed people. So I've been well served through this. It's been a pandemic. It's been terrible. We've lost nearly 10,000 lives in the state of Arizona. The virus continues to spread. Of course, early on in the spring, when it was the fog of COVID-19 and nobody really knew what to expect, Arizona wasn't in the bullseye. As the summer came, our cases rose and then receded again, and now we're back in the thick of it right now in terms of virus spread, stress and strain on our hospitals and ICUs. So I not only want to applaud Dr. Christ, but all our doctors and nurses and healthcare workers. There's so many heroes throughout this, people that have stepped up, people that maybe you took for granted before, like a grocery store worker or even a member of the National Guard. They've all been unbelievable, and we wouldn't be in the position that we're in right now and poised to make this year much different than last year if it wasn't for every one of them.
Well, Governor, I know from following you on social media, you're constantly in touch with the top federal officials, the top your colleagues and the governors. We're both baseball fans. You said at one of your press conferences, no states pitching a shutout. How should we be thinking about it in terms of how we compare to the other states in the country?
Well, since you invoked baseball, I do want to say, and I know you're a Yankees fan, but it is a sad day for baseball. We really lost one of the all-time greats. And I say this as a son of Ohio and a Cincinnati Reds fan, but Tommy Lasorda, I don't know if you ever got to meet him, but he will leave a real void in our national pastime. He was really one of a kind. But yes, no state is throwing a shutout. I said if there's, of course, there's always a lot of opinions and criticism that comes with the position. And it's my job to listen to everyone. But I get to talk to these health officials, not only in Washington, D.C., but in Arizona and across the country, talk to all the governors as well. And if I saw somebody who had a better approach for Arizona, I mean, I'd apply it with attribution. But we've done what's right for Arizona through this, and it's been this idea of focusing on the public health emergency, making sure our public knows that the best way to avoid this virus is to wear a mask, to socially distance, to wash your hands, to stay home when you're sick, to make sure that our healthcare providers have all the resources that they need. And we have put those dollars forward. We've acquired the PPE, the ventilators, the hospital space. But I've also taken into account, Glenn, everything else that comes in a pandemic. Our children still need to learn. Addiction and alcoholism and drug abuse and child abuse and domestic violence and isolation and suicide, all of these things do not stop during a pandemic. I do think we've been able to have the right touch so that we can protect people, and we can also show that we are not going to take our small business people and their employees for granted. So I give a lot of love to Arizonans who have weathered this storm, have been responsible, and have stepped up at every turn.
When you're, and we discussed Dr. Chris, but when you're considering new strategies or approaches, any other folks that you're relying on for advice and counsel?
Well, I would say looking to the medical officers, listening to the subject matter experts, and then it really is among the governors. The governors are very collegial in really a divided political time when everybody has a jersey on. Governors are collaborative. We all are chief executives. We have problems to solve, oftentimes the same problem. We might come at it from a different view, but when we find a practice that works, word spreads very quickly.
Vaccines, plural. We've got, I mean, the experts said you couldn't do it in a year, you couldn't do it in 2 years. Well, we've got 2 vaccines at least that are being administered as we speak. Could you give us an update on where things stand in Arizona, please?
Sure. I want to say this is a modern medical miracle that I don't think anyone could have seen in March. But not only do we have the vaccines here from both Pfizer and Moderna and others on the way, they are in the state. They are going into people's arms. My grandmother, who turned 97 on January 4th, by coincidence, received the vaccine on that day. She's in a long-term care facility. Right now we're focusing on our doctors, nurses, people that work in healthcare, medicine, and hospitals, and everyone that's elderly in a congregate setting, retirement home, assisted living, skilled nursing facility, etc. And then it will start to go out from there to the broader public. We're going to have some positive announcements that we're going to make on Monday, and we should think of this as a snowball rolling downhill. We have a certain amount of vaccines today in the state of Arizona. We're going to get those and turn them into vaccinations, but then more supply is on the way, and then it will go to the general public. We're going to focus, of course, on essential workers and by age. It's the elderly, those 75 and older first, then 65 and older, and then 55 and older, and then we'll get to the young guys like you, Glenn. So you will see these points of distribution and vaccination, and then as the supply chain catches up, you will see this in the traditional healthcare settings of your doctor's office and other providers like pharmacies. And the government and state's role is going to be to focus on the underserved, to focus, of course, on our tribal communities and our rural communities. And then we have a vaccine hesitation out there, or skepticism, that we need to work through public health and good communication, that this is a safe and effective vaccine, and it's what will get us back to normal as quickly as possible.
Count us in to help in any way we can. You're 100% right. I'm going to switch gears. We're a chamber. We're all about competitiveness. You're one of the great entrepreneurs in the state's history. In fact, after this, I'm going to break this event by eating ice cream before regular lunch. How do you feel right now about Arizona's competitive situation, Governor?
Well, the top priority, of course, is going to continue to be this pandemic and the vaccine distribution. And I believe that Arizona can be among the leaders in the nation on this. And I think that's not only the help that we have from people in the private sector and our good public servants, but again, Dr. Christ is really stepping up on this. So if I was to think of how I prioritize things, it would be the pandemic first, and then I'm moving, and that includes vaccines. But if you look at the kind of competition among states, next is the state budget and finances, and how does the state weather the storm there, and then who can bring jobs back fastest. I think no state is better positioned than the state of Arizona. So we start pushing this forward to solve and bring the solution to the pandemic. We catch our kids up on education, which is what is needed and necessary right now, and then we begin to thrive and surge again as a state.
State of the state preview. I have to ask, are there any nuggets, any news you want to break here? I know I get in trouble whenever I broach this subject because the big speech is coming, but anything?
Well, what I would say is I think there's among some folks, there's some negativity or concern that we can't get things done because the margins are so slim. This isn't Washington, D.C. I met today with legislative leadership from both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat. And I'm confident there's a lot of things that we can do and focus on what the people of Arizona need. So I have a lot of confidence that we're going to have a positive and successful session. That's the objective, and we're going to bring the best ideas and move them forward.
All right, we're at the speed round. RGA, huge deal. You're running the show. Can you talk a little bit about that, Republicans Governors Association?
Well, it's always an honor to be selected by your peers in that role. It'll give me an opportunity to really showcase the best of what's done in Arizona. That's how you get elected to that role. When I came into the RGA, I think it was Chris Christie or Scott Walker that had that role, so I'm honored to be there, and I really see nothing but upside for our state.
Corporation Commission. You appointed Leah Marquez Peterson. She won. She's a great friend. Used to run the Tucson Hispanic Chamber. Can you talk a little about her position and the importance of rates and electricity when it comes to our state's competitiveness? Sure.
First, I want to congratulate Chairwoman Peterson. Yes. She's elected in her own right now, and she is the chairwoman of the Corporation Commission. I think Glenn, that the first law that I passed was the American Civics Act. And everyone knows that in America we have 3 branches of government, not 4. So I want to see the Corporation Commission setting rates, and I want to see the state legislature setting energy policy. And I hope we can straighten that out this legislative session.
Well, we love the civics law. My Israeli wife always asked why we didn't have to pass a citizenship test, and you fix that. Arizona's relationship with Mexico. No governor has had a better relationship with his counterpart in our sister state, Sonora. You've got a great team in Juan Ciscomani, Jessica Pacheco, and Luis Ramirez. Can you talk a little bit about your vision of our relationship going forward now that USMCA is in effect?
Well, USMCA, and thanks to the Chamber for helping get that passed. I think we were probably the ambassador state to get that done, and I give so much thanks and gratitude to Governor Claudia Pavlovich. She has been a shoulder-to-shoulder partner with my administration, with the state of Arizona, and she's been a leader as well. She has time remaining in her term, so I think we just build on this relationship. We want to make sure that we're doing the right things to protect public safety at the border, and then we want to make sure we're doing the right things to promote commerce and trade and trucking and transit and tourism and all the good things that can happen when you have that kind of relationship where there's good faith and goodwill. And a real shout out to Governor Pavlovich, and looking forward to working with her in the rest of her term.
Governor, I just want to thank you for being a model of bringing us together. When you take a look at USMCA drought contingency plan, the way you've handled things in COVID-19, you've brought the state together. You've brought both parties together. It's a model. It's an inspiration. And on the behalf of the business community, count us in to help as you continue to advance your very successful efforts to make Arizona the best state in the country.
I will take you up on it, Glenn. Again, I want to say thanks to the business community and the leaders around the state. I'm very hopeful and optimistic for 2021, and looking forward to Monday's kickoff.
We are as well. Thank you, Governor Ducey.
Thank you.